I think we're going to start. Sorry for interrupting your lovely dinners. But as you all know, welcome to Lunch Bar. So basically, we're the Christion Union, and we like to kind of do things for the students, and everyone likes free food. And also, like, what we want to do is be able to kind of inform you about why we believe the things that we believe. I wasn't a Christian when I first came to uni. I was a complete atheist, and then I went to a Christian Union meeting to out all the Christians and all the idiocy, and walked out a Christian. So I know that people have questions and people have doubts about Christianity, but I also know that there are answers. So that's like the point of Lunch Bars, is that we want to take your questions on what you find difficult about Christianity, and just let you know why we believe them, because it's not that we just walk around and go, ooh, we believe it. We have reasons why we believe it. And then also get some free food as well. So I'm just going to invite our speaker this afternoon, Lazlo, to come up, and I'm just going to introduce him quickly, and then he's going to speak quite soon. Okay, so Lazlo hasn't spoken at CU before, so you won't know. But we have a thing where we ask random questions of our speakers just to get to know them a bit more. This one isn't quite as random. Who are you and what are you doing here?
My name is Lazlo, and as you would guess, that's not a very English name. Originally, I come from Romania. Actually, a specific part of Romania, Transylvania. Did you actually know that Transylvania was in Romania? A lot of people think it's in America. But that's where I come from, don't worry about it. No vampires back in Romania. Last one was sent over to Huddersfield 7 years ago. So I came to UK about 7 years ago, and at the moment I'm like a trainee minister over in Brighouse, about 3 miles up the road, in a church. He comes to our church, Tom, and the guy behind the camera comes, and a few other people come to our church. So that's what I do for a living.
Okay, some more random questions. When you were younger, what was the craziest thing you ever did?
You mean the craziest thing I can share?
Yeah, probably.
A lot of things come to my mind that wouldn't be good for anyone to hear.
Say it anyway.
Listen, can I answer that question a bit later on so I can pick the sensible one?
Yeah.
I think some people may be put off if I shared some of the crazy stuff I've done.
Okay, so if you were in a supermarket and you were going to buy a dessert, what would be the thing you bought?
Either profiteroles, with a lot of chocolate on. You know, if I was in Tesco, it would be the finest, you know, the good stuff. Not the one out of the freezer, rubbish that is, £1. Or sticky toffee pudding. One of the two, yeah, that would be.
Okay, something a bit more serious. If you had to give one reason why you're a Christian, what would that be?
Because I examined the evidence, and I came to the conclusion that it's true. I don't believe because my parents told me to. Well, I kind of did up to the age of about 17, 18. But I thought it might just be a whole load of rubbish. And I came to the evidence, and I spent years looking and examining the evidence. And I came to the conclusion that there's a very, very, very great probability that it is true. So I believed.
Okay. So, can I just ask you to speak now, and then we'll say some of the stuff afterwards. Thank you.
Remind me about the question, all right? Because I'll forget about it. Right. I'll just open this. Let me just say a few more things before I talk about this talk. As I said, I'm a training minister over at Brighouse. And I'm glad you asked what's the one important thing why I believe. And that is because up to the age of 17, I was born in a Christian family. My dad is a pastor and my mum is a missionary. It can't really be worse, can it? A minister dad and a missionary mother. So I was dragged along to church every Sunday. I was dragged along to midweek meetings. It was terrible. But one of the consequences of that was that I grew up hearing the stuff that the Bible taught. But then you get to kind of the age where you kind of think, this is not really for me, and there's a lot of fun that my friends had. And I can't really do them because the Bible says you shouldn't. So I thought, I need to look into these things and see whether this is really true. And I spent about 2 or 3 years just reading and thinking and talking to people. And I came to the conclusion that the big things that my mum and dad taught me, and I've heard at church, were true. Some of the things that kind of stopped me from having fun, like drinking, was a whole load of rubbish. My mum and dad told me when I was young that if you drink alcohol, that is sin and against God. And when I examined the evidence, I thought that's a whole load of rubbish. So I drink, and I love drinking. And it's great, isn't it? The only thing I don't do is I don't get drunk, because that is sin and that is against the Bible. But I love a pint, so if anyone wants to invite me for a pint after, please do. But there are a lot of stuff like that that I came to say, well, that is true, but that is not true, but other things were not true. But the big things of life, you know, I came to the conclusion that probably they were true. See, this is my assumption to you this lunchtime. You will all agree that there are important things in life and there are less important things in life, won't you? You're a bunch of, can I call you intellectuals? We're at the uni, right? We're now not down in the car park. We're at the uni. So whether you agree or not, you're a thinker. And I'm talking to you as you were thinkers. And you will know that there are things in life that are important, there are things in life that are less important. And so, for example, if you want to catch the bus somewhere and you didn't check the timetable and you said, well, I'm not bothered. And if you turn up at the bus station and you miss the bus, well, the consequence of that is not disastrous. If you've got a boyfriend and a girlfriend, or a girlfriend, and you don't know their birthday, and you miss their birthday, you're in bigger trouble. And the consequence of it will be bigger and worse. But when you come to the big things of life, like if there's a God or not, or if there's heaven or hell out there, if you get that answer wrong, can I tell you, you are in big trouble. I know I may not mean anything to you, and you may say, he's just a scumbag off from Romania. But I can tell you, and I will tell you, if you get the answer to that question, whether there is a God or not, the consequences are terrible. And therefore, what I want to encourage you to do today is not to believe in God. Because I bet, I mean, I don't know who are you, where are you, but I assume that most of you think God is not existent, He's not there, and what Christians believe is a whole load of superstition and rubbish, and they can't have fun. So if that's what you think, I don't want you to leave today by saying, I believe now in God. I want you to leave and say, I think that's important, and I'll check it out. Because I bet 80% of you has never really come and examined the evidence, whether there is God or not, but you just looked at Christians and said, they are superstitious, they are dull, they are boring, they go to church, they dress up, and it's a whole lot of stupidity that they believe. But you've actually probably never really come to examine the evidence, whether there is a Jesus or not. Because this whole question that was on the poster, if you're really their God, why on earth don't you prove it? The answer to that question really comes when we start thinking about how did God reveal Himself. But put it this way, if you don't believe in God today, right? What would be the one thing that God would have to do for you in order for you to believe in Him? What would make you believe that, yes, there is God? Come on, shout out.
Pot noodle that spells, is this a big enough clue for you?
Sorry?
A pot noodle that spells, here I am.
Right, a pot noodle that spells, right, okay. Anything bigger? I think that's not a big thing for God to do. Anything bigger that would really convince you that there is a God.
A big deep voice from the sky.
A big deep voice from the sky, right? Can anything bigger? Only a voice? If he stood in front of you and if he said, "Here I am," would you be convinced that there is a God then?
Yeah, because then I'll actually see him.
Excellent, right.
Yes, floating.
Right. Okay, let's not get carried away. So if God would appear in front of you, you would believe. Well, can I just say that all through the years, all through the past thousands of years, people have said exactly that. If God would appear in front of me, I would believe. There's a guy in the Bible who lived somewhere probably about 15 or 20 AD, who said, who said to this guy, Jesus, "If you show me God, I will believe." And you know what Jesus said to him? "If you see me, you have seen God." I completely agree with everyone who said, if God would appear in front of me, I would believe. But you know what? Funnily enough, that's exactly what God did in order to convince people that He is there. That's exactly what He did. He came to earth 2,000 years ago. And there was a guy called Jesus who was walking around and saying, "You know what? I am God." Now we'll come in a bit to talk about what actually He has done, whether you can believe that He was God or not. But you know what? You know what's the disappointing thing? Jesus was walking around and He did stuff that no one else did. And He had 12 people around Him who were going around with Him all the time. And they saw the miracles and all the stuff that He's done. And 3 years later, some people out of those 12 still said, "I doubt He's God." So in that sense, if you tell me that if God was to appear here in front of you, you would believe. I can't really believe you. Because God may appear here and you would still turn around and go out from this hall and say, "No, that's a fake, He's not God." That's what happened 2,000 years ago when He was around. But it is very valid that if God was to appear here, there would probably, many of us would think, there is something in this. Because see, the things that really matter, and the question that really matters is who was this guy Jesus? I believe He was God. I don't know what you believe about this guy. But let me just show you some of the things that weigh heavily on the side of those people who say that Jesus was God. Firstly, did He say that He was God? He did say many times. Now, people would respond to that, well, Jesus has never actually said, "I am God's Son." He never did. But He said stuff like, "I am one with God." And He said stuff like, "If you have seen God, you have seen me. And the Father and me, God and me, are one." So by reason you can tell that He did say He was God. Actually, put it this way. Go back in your mind 2,000 years ago. There's the Jewish nations, Israel, right? And thousands of years before Jesus, there was a guy called Moses. And Moses was once walking with his sheep in the desert, and God appeared to him, right? Literally appeared to him. And He said to Moses, "Go off and do this, blah, blah, blah." And he said, "Well, if people ask me, who sent me, what shall I say?" And God said, "Tell them, I am sent you." God called Himself I am. So for thousands and thousands of years, the Jewish people said that God is called I am. So they actually never said the words I am referring to God. They never actually called God by His name. And Jesus was once walking around and people asked, "Who are you?" And He turns to the people and says, "I am." Now, to appreciate the depth and the seriousity of that is this. Imagine yourself present-day Germany. And you were walking around in Germany, right? And in front of a big crowd of politicians and military personnel, you know, you've done the Heil Hitler. You would be straight in jail. Straight in jail. If you came out from jail and you've done that again and you repeated that a few times, you probably would be dead. You don't play around with that sign in Germany or in Austria. It's illegal. For Jesus to say, I am, it was no small risk for him. He did say, I am God. No doubt about that. But then some people, or some of you may think, well, he might have done all this for fame and business and importance, to be famous and to come out from the crowd and all that. If you know, and again we come to the evidence, if you know anything about this Jesus, if you've read anything about him, did he mix with the rich? Did he talk to the rich? Did he get up on platforms and seek fame? Did he accept money from anyone? Did he go to the palace of the king? If you know anything about this Jesus, tell me, who did he mix with?
Commons.
Sorry?
Commons.
Commons. Poor people, prostitutes, sinners, tax collectors, the lowest of the lowest. So don't tell me that this Jesus was doing all that he was doing for money and fame and for a name for himself. He wasn't. Because if you do that, you go and take your photographs on the red carpet and go to shows and dress up nicely. You don't go out at midnight in Huddersfield talking to drunken people and prostitutes. Right? You don't. But if you look at the evidence, Christian or non-Christian evidence, this guy called Jesus was mixing with the lowest of the lowest. Right? So don't tell me he was doing all this for fame and for a name for himself. But again, you could come back and say, I was trying to think of reasons that you could come up with. But then again, you could say, well, anyone could say that he was God. Anyone could just say, well, I am God. I am God's son. I came from heaven. Yes, but then the question is, did he prove it? Did he do anything amazing for people to say, ooh, hang on a sec. This guy isn't just saying, he's actually doing stuff. If you read the Bible, there are 5 close consecutive events that Jesus does that are just a little bit OTT, just a bit amazing. Once he sits with the teachers and with the professors of maybe universities or something, all the clever ones, and he stands up amongst them and he starts teaching the crowd. And the crowd turns around and says, this guy is not like the other teachers. This guy has got authority. The crowd look at him and say, this is not any kind of teacher. There's something special about him. Now you may say, well, so he could have said, no problem. He finishes the teaching. He goes out and he goes into a different house. 4 guys run up to the house carrying another person, a 5th person, a friend. They can't get into the crowd. So they go up on the roof of the house. In those days, roofs were flat. And they start opening up the roof. And they lower this friend right in front of Jesus. Jesus touches this guy. And he heals him. And the guy gets up and walks. And the people around think, wow, he's not only a great teacher or a special teacher, this guy has got some power. Now, if you've ever been ill, or let me put it this way, if you have a family member or a friend that is ill, perhaps has got cancer, and I don't take any pleasure in talking about this, I don't want to make this difficult for you, but just imagine if you knew one person in this world who could come to your friend or family member and touch him or her, and that person would be healed straight away. You tell me, would you not take that person to this guy? You flipping would. You'd get the first plane and you would take him. And that's what exactly people in those days did. They got their friends, their loved ones, their brothers, their mothers who were ill, and they were dragging them to Jesus Because Jesus touched them and they were healed. Now don't tell me that is just natural. It's not. That's another thing that Jesus did. Then he gets into a boat with his 12 friends. There's a massive storm that comes on. He's having a kip in the back of the boat. And these 12 fishermen, strong guys, right, are trying to get the boat still and, you know, not to sink. And they can't fight off the storm. So they go down to Jesus and say, Jesus, we're going to sink. We're going to be dead in a moment. And he gets up. He goes to the front of the boat and looks at the storm. Everything's raging. He looks at the storm and says, shush. And that very moment, the whole thing goes still. And the disciples are, wow. Now just imagine that happening today. You'd be freaked out. You'd freak out. It'd be all over the newspapers. Then again, he gets to the other side of this lake, and he goes into someone else's house called Peter, and Peter's mother-in-law is really ill. Sorry, he goes on to the other side of the lake. I mixed it up with the other one. He goes to the other side of the lake, and there's a guy running up to him and saying, "My daughter is very, very ill. Would you please come?" And he starts walking with this guy. And halfway through the walk, some servants from this big guy's house run up to this guy called Jairus. And they say to Jairus, "Don't bother with the teacher, because your little girl has died." I've got a little girl, a 1.5-year-old little girl, and I think of the world of her. She's so cute. But for me to think that, you know, one morning I would wake up and find her still and without life in her cot, that is just unthinkable. And these servants come up to Jairus and say, "Don't bother with him, because your girl is dead." And he drags Jesus to his house. And Jesus goes into the room. And this girl is lying there lifeless. Takes the girl's hand and says to her, "Talitha kumi," which means, in their language, "Little girl, get up." Just imagine what was going through Jairus' mind as a father. Will she not? Is this a fake thing? What will happen? And suddenly, the girl opens her eyes and stands up. And Jairus is like, wow. And then later on, there's another guy that people bring to Jesus, and he doesn't only heal him, but he says to this guy, "Your sins are forgiven." See, this guy, Jesus, historically speaking, wasn't only a great teacher, wasn't only a guy who did have power over illness, not only power over nature, not only power over death, but he said he had power to forgive sins. Now, again, your mind may say, well, maybe it was all coincidence. Maybe it just so happened there was luck. And maybe it was. Maybe it was luck. It just so happened exactly when he kind of needed it. I don't think so. He might have been able to manipulate things. But how about this? Thousands of years before Jesus was born, people prophesied, looked into the future, sages, and said there will be a guy called Jesus born in Bethlehem on this day. And there he was, Jesus born in Bethlehem on this day, on that day. You can manipulate a lot of things in life, but you can't manipulate your birth, can you? How come he was born in that spot at that time, that person? There's no coincidence. See, these are just some of the things that people bring up against Jesus. But ultimately, some of you may say this: all what you're talking, I think, is rubbish. And I'll tell you why. Because I think some people in this life are faith people, and other people are just not faith people. Some people believe in these things, some people don't. Can I just say, whoever you are here, wherever you come from, whatever your history is, you are a faith person. You are a faith person. Because if you don't believe in God, you will believe in something else. If you don't believe that God created this world, all that is around us, and He created you and I and absolutely everyone in this room, then you will believe that there was a Big Bang, and once we were monkeys and we evolved. Now, I don't know what takes more faith, to believe in God, or to believe that all this came together through a Big Bang. See, you're again thinkers. If you girls, if you were walking down the street and you saw an amazing hairstyle, someone, or shall I say lads? We can all lads. Or you'd say an amazing dress, girls, or an amazing, I don't know, pair of shoes. You would look at it and think, wow. And the first question that would come to mind, who created that? Where does that come from? Or if you were to listen to an absolutely beautiful piece of music, you would say, who is this? I was having a coffee the other day in Nero, the Nero Cafe, and there was some beautiful music. And I went up to the waitress and I said to her, who was that? And she went down and checked for me, because I wanted to get that piece of music. But you would say, who's singing? Who's created this? You wouldn't go, this probably just came together by its own. Oh, this piece of shoes, these pair of shoes, probably just happened. This amazing hairstyle, probably the girl just woke up in the morning, looked in the mirror and, wow! Would you? Well, if you do, I don't know. But you wouldn't. Guys, if you were to stand at the side of the road and an amazing, amazing car would stop, and you didn't see the front or the back, and you didn't recognize what model was it, the one thing you would want to see is the back or the front, so you see the sign. What on earth is this piece of machinery? I want it, and I want it now. See, but you wouldn't say, probably just happened. Just came together through a Big Bang. Probably. You wouldn't. So when you look around this world, you don't tell me our world is not beautiful. It is. It is amazing. For all that to come together by chance, if you believe that, you've got great faith. You've got absolutely great faith. I believe there's a God who created it like this. See, these things, these amazing things don't happen by chance. And then let me leave you with this one. I believe in God. And I believe that Jesus, who was walking around, was His Son. But this is where the rubber hits the road. And this is where it becomes uncomfortable. This is where it became uncomfortable for me. See, if Jesus was indeed God's Son, and God Himself, when He walked around the earth, He said a lot of things. If He was God, I'd want to check out what He said. Because He talked about stuff like heaven and hell, He said that every one of us will die and will not come back again. Because there's no reincarnation. Something will happen to us and our souls. It will not come back into another tree or dog or whatever. And that at the end of our lives, there will be a judgment, heaven and hell. But He also said that each one of us who felt at one point guilty in our lives, we felt guilty because we were guilty. He said God gave a lot of orders and commandments. And He said, this is how you should live your life. You can drink, but don't get drunk. You can have sex, but don't have it outside marriage. And you may object to that. I did at one point. And I know lots of people who objected to that and say sex is absolutely fine outside of marriage. And I know people who say that it's not. And there's the same people. And if you want my reason, come and talk to me. But God said, it's fine, all these things are fine, as long as they're in the right place. And as long as they are not in the right place, they're going to be against God. And they're going to be sin. And at the end of each one of our lives, there will be a judgment. And we will stand before that God. Whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not. And I've got pretty strong evidence for that. There will be. And God will say, if you've done everything right, you go into heaven. If you didn't do one thing right, you get into hell. Right? And that is harsh from God. But he also said, I'll send my son Jesus Christ, and he will die. And whoever believes that he was God's son and believes in him, whatever he has done, he will go to heaven. Now there's a lot more I could say on that. But let me leave you with this one question. Let's assume we can't know whether there is a God or not. The technical term for that is agnostics. They say you can't know whether there is a God. Let's say we couldn't know. We could never ever find out that whether there is a God or not. If you live your life as thinking God was not there, right? And you thought, I'm not going to believe him, I'm going to ignore the Bible, a whole lot of rubbish and superstition, I'm going to get on with my life. You live your life, you have great fun. You get drunk, you sleep outside a marriage. Fine, do all those things, fine, you have great fun. You die, right? And if God is not there, fine. You had a great life and you die, you were right. But if God is there, you're in deep trouble. In very great trouble. If you go the other way around and say, I can't really know whether there is God, but I'm going to go along with the Bible, and I'm going to live according to the Bible, and I will believe that Jesus was God, you think you'd have a boring life. There are a lot of people here today who would disagree very much with you. Christians have fun, a lot of fun. But if you were to die and God wasn't there, you lived a good life, an honorable life, paid the taxes, you didn't steal, you didn't cause much harm, fine. But if there is God, there's heaven for you. There are things that are important in life, and there are things that are very important in life. And what I don't want you to do is get this one very important thing wrong in your life. I'm not asking you to believe in God. I'm asking you to go away and check the evidence. Because if there is a God, and he has given a great proof in Jesus Christ, then I don't want you to ignore that for the rest of your life. Alright? Do I hand back to you now?
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys, for listening. If you want to talk to... I'm sure I've raised some objections. I'm sure I've said some pretty heavy stuff that don't really fit with you. If you want to talk to me, just come and talk to me. If you don't have time to talk to me, come up to me and ask for my mobile number or my email address and write me an email if you don't have time. But don't let it go by. Go to the evidence, check it out, and I think you'll find some interesting stuff.
Thank you. Just to echo what Lazlo said, if I'm sure people came here with questions, and maybe you came here with some questions, but then you're going to go away with even more questions, please come and speak to either Lazlo, myself, anyone from the Christian Union. We'd love to chat with you. Like I said before, we know exactly why we believe, and there isn't a question that scares us, because we know the reasons why we believe. Also, you might have seen during Freshers a tin man walking around. Add him on Facebook and ask him, and he'll tell you. He's really friendly. Also, there's an opportunity of a Seeker Bible study. So just like Lazlo was saying, if you have these questions and you want to understand the evidence, the best thing is to look at the evidence, which is the Bible. And we've got, I think it's Katie that's happy to go through one of the passages, and I think it might be the one that Lazlo said about lowering the disabled man through the roof. And it's just, the one thing that I realised is that before I became a Christian, it was just that I'd shrugged it off and said, they want me to stop having sex, they want me to stop drinking all the time, they're just boring. And actually, over the past 2 years, I've had more fun than the rest of my life, because I realised that I was made to be in a relationship with God. And when you use something as it was made, then it's, and for the purpose it was made, then it works perfectly. If somebody, praying, that buys me an iPad, and I used it for the purpose that it's created, it would be a beautiful thing. If I took it to the desk and smashed it on the desk, it would be broken and you wouldn't be able to use it anymore. And that's how our life is. We were made to live in a relationship with Jesus, and that's what it's about. So when you look at Jesus and when you see the evidence, then you automatically see God. Also, there's free literature that's on one of the tables. I'm not sure exactly where. There's the Mark's Gospel, which our good friend Ben will hold up. That's, again, it's one of the accounts of Jesus' life. So if you look at it and you read, like, it's basically somebody writing an account of somebody's life, and it was Jesus' life. So, and we've got a carol service. If Aaron wants to shout out the date, because I can't exactly remember what date it is. The 12th of December. So that's going to be really cool. There's going to be some interesting acts on. There's going to be hopefully going to be Krispy Kreme donuts. There's hopefully going to be like loads of snacks and hot chocolate and just a lovely evening. Hopefully it'll snow, because that'd be wicked. Also, we have Monday night meetings, which meet in the technology building. If you don't know where that is, then come and ask me or someone else from the Christion Union. And it's where we meet as Christians and we read through the Bible and we pray together and we worship together. And we'd love to see you there, because it's not a group just specifically for Christians. It's a group to be able to reach out to campus with this amazing message. And the one thing that I want to leave you with, Lazlo kind of said it, was the writer of the Narnia series, C.S. Lewis, was a massive Christian. And if you understand that, and not that he's massive, he's a very faithful man. And if you watch the Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, there's a lot of Christian stuff in it. And he said one thing, that Christianity, if not real, is of no importance, but if real, of infinite importance. If you, like Lazlo said, if you die and you believe in Jesus, and actually you're just laid on the ground, what's going to happen? Nothing. If you die and you don't believe in Jesus, then the Bible says that, and you can come and ask me if you don't understand, is that you will go to hell. And the thing is, you're not going to lose anything by looking into it. The only thing you're going to lose is your time. And I honestly, anyone who's a Christian in this room will tell you that it's the most important decision you will ever make in your life. We're not asking you to become Christians right here, right now. We're asking you to understand and to look into it at least. So I think that's it. If there's some more food, so please grab it. The sandwiches are fresh, so if you don't eat them now, then they'll go off. So please eat them. And again, just come and speak to us. Thank you.